She doesn't love you. She loves who she imagines you could be. You feel it in her eyes, the admiration, the attention, but beneath it all, there's a silent audition. You're not being seen, you're being cast. Not as who you are, but as who she hopes you'll become. And when you fail to match the role, when the fantasy starts to slip, you're not just rejected, you're replaced. Carl Jung saw this decades ago. He warned us about the shadows hiding in plain sight, the projections, the illusions, the lies we call love. This isn't another feel-good relationship video. It's a brutal, unapologetic wake-up call. If you're ready to stop playing roles and start living as a man who knows himself, then listen closely, because what you're about to hear may change everything. It always starts the same way. She looks at you not as you are, but as who she hopes you could become. In her eyes, you're not a man. You're a blank canvas, a potential, a role waiting to be filled, and you feel chosen, desired, important. But that feeling, it's a trap. Carl Jung called it projection, and he said it's not just common, it's unconscious. Every woman carries within her an image, a blueprint of the masculine. Jung called it the animus. When undeveloped or unchecked, this inner masculine isn't a guide. It's a tyrant, a puppeteer. It pulls the strings behind the curtain of her desires, casting you not as a partner, but as a character. You think she sees you, but you're just a character in her private movie. And when your lines no longer match the script in her mind, she won't rewrite the story. She'll just recast the role. This is the trap, the illusion of being loved, when what's really being loved is the fantasy of you. And the scariest part? She doesn't even know she's doing it. Carl Jung wasn't a relationship coach. He wasn't selling self-help or feel-good advice. He was a surgeon of the soul, and what he discovered should have shaken every man awake. Jung warned that a woman doesn't fall in love with you. She falls in love with the idea of you. A projection from her unconscious mind, an idealized figure shaped by her past, her pain, her unmet needs. And if that projection is driven by an immature animus, it becomes toxic. It makes her chase danger and reject depth, argue without reason, dominate without wisdom, moralize without accountability. Jung called it a spiritual possession, a woman acting not from her own consciousness, but from the grip of an internal masculine fantasy. And men fall for it, every single time, because no one taught you the difference between being desired and being known. You think, she chose me because I'm different, but she didn't choose you. She chose the mask you happen to be wearing. And the moment you stop fitting the fantasy, you're out, replaced, forgotten. Not because you failed her, but because you failed the story she never told you she was telling. And that, Jung said, is the cost of living in a projection. You will always be disposable. And here's where most men make the deadliest mistake. When she starts to drift, when the fantasy slips, you don't walk away, you perform. You smile wider, you become more agreeable, more predictable. You hand over your soul in exchange for approval, and you call it love. But Jung had a different name for it, self-betrayal. You're no longer a man, you're a mirror, reflecting what you think she wants to see. But here's the cruel twist. The very things you do to keep her are the same things that make her lose interest. Why? Because the feminine, Jung taught, isn't drawn to comfort. It's drawn to mystery, to presence, to the man she can't fully define, control, or consume. And when you become predictable, when you lose your edges, you don't become more lovable, you become invisible, disposable, replaceable. But you keep doing it, not because it works, but because you're terrified of being alone, terrified of not being chosen. And that fear keeps you trapped in a role that isn't yours, a mask, smiling, nodding, pleasing, until you forget who you were before you put it on. So what's the way out? Jung called it individuation, the brutal, lifelong process of becoming whole within yourself. Not by finding the right partner, not by being loved enough, but by facing every part of you that you've buried, the weak, the insecure, the broken. Jung warned most men never begin this journey because chasing approval is easier. Performing is safer. You've been trained to let women define your worth, so you keep auditioning, keep shape-shifting, keep playing the part until the audience gets bored and you're replaced again. Individuation is not glamorous. It's a kind of death, the death of the false self, the death of the man who lives for applause. It demands something rare, that you stop blaming women for not seeing you and start seeing yourself. Because here's what Jung knew, and what most men will never understand. You don't become a man by being chosen. You become a man by choosing yourself, fully, without apology, without needing to be needed. The man who has faced his own unconscious cannot be seduced by fantasy. He no longer fits into her movie because he's not playing a role anymore. He's the author now of his own life, his own truth, his own identity. But what does real love even look like when so many of us are trapped in fantasy? Jung showed us the difference. Projection is a lie. It's seduction dressed up as connection. It's not intimacy, it's theater, and the stage always collapses. But real love, it doesn't ask you to perform. It doesn't mold you. It doesn't turn you into a character. Real love sees you, and it stands beside you. Not because you filled a role, but because you walked through the fire alone and came out whole. That kind of man doesn't attract women looking for a fantasy. He attracts women who've done their work too. Women who have confronted their own animus, who aren't looking to be saved, but to walk with someone not behind him. No masks, no projections, no scripts. Just two souls, standing side by side. No desperation, no clinging, just truth. And that kind of love, Jung warned, is dangerous because it demands everything, but it needs nothing. It's not about completing each other. It's about meeting each other, finally, fully, without illusion. And now, here you are, standing at the edge. You've seen the illusion. You've felt the sting of the fantasy, and you have a choice. You can keep blaming women, keep calling them manipulative, deceptive, shallow. Or you can ask the one question that will change everything. Why did I allow myself to be chosen by her in the first place? Jung said, you are not a victim. You are a volunteer. The truth, the woman you're chasing, she's a reflection of the part of yourself you've abandoned. And until you reclaim that part, every relationship will be a performance. But when you finally stop running, when you stop performing, when you choose yourself, something shifts. You no longer chase women who need a puppet. You attract women who crave the truth, women who stand whole in themselves, who've burned through their own illusions, who meet you as an equal, not as a goddess demanding worship, but as a human finally ready to walk beside you. And that, my friend, is the rarest kind of love. It doesn't need, it chooses. It's born from freedom, but most men will never get there. Most will quit because it's easier to perform than to be. But if you've made it this far, maybe you're not like most men. Maybe you're ready to become the author of your own life. If this message hit you somewhere deep, don't just scroll past. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with a man who needs to hear it. Not for the algorithm, but because you know what it's like to live in the lie. And maybe it's time we started waking each other up, one man at a time.